The year is 1941. The world is at war. Nazi Germany under Adolf Hitler has swept across Europe. Japan, with its imperial ambitions, threatens the Pacific. The United States, clinging to isolationism, watches with growing unease. This year, 1941, will prove a turning point for America, a year where ordinary citizens are called upon to become extraordinary heroes. It is the year that shapes the American soldier, forging a generation in the fires of global conflict. While Europe burned, many Americans hoped to stay out of the war. However, the U.S. could not ignore the growing threat. President Franklin D. Roosevelt knew that intervention was inevitable. He began preparing the nation for war, even as isolationist voices argued against involvement. The U.S. military, though small and ill-equipped, ramped up training. Across the country, young men answered the call to duty, leaving behind families, farms, and factories to become soldiers. The transition from civilian life to military service was not easy. These new recruits, many of whom had never left their hometowns, were thrust into a world of strict discipline and rigorous training. They learned to march, shoot, and fight, their days filled with drills and exercises designed to transform them into a cohesive fighting force. America's entry into World War II necessitated the rapid expansion of its armed forces. Millions of men, from all walks of life, were drafted or volunteered for service. They came from farms and cities, representing the diverse tapestry of America. These citizen soldiers were about to undergo a transformation, molded by the crucible of war into a formidable fighting force. Basic training in 1941 was no picnic. Recruits endured grueling physical conditioning, mastering the use of weapons like the M1 Garand rifle, and learning the intricacies of military tactics. The emphasis was on teamwork, discipline, and developing a soldier's instinct to react under pressure. From reveille to lights out, their days were filled with drills, exercises, and classroom instruction. Beyond the physical demands, the mental and emotional toll was significant. These young men were forced to confront the very real possibility of combat and death. The bonds of camaraderie forged in shared hardship, and the understanding that they were fighting for a cause greater than themselves helped them endure. For those soldiers not immediately thrust into the heat of battle, daily life in 1941 was a mix of routine and anticipation. On military bases across the U.S. and in deployments overseas, they continued to train, preparing for the inevitable conflict. The days were long, filled with drills, guard duty, and endless maintenance of equipment. Life on base was regimented. Soldiers lived in barracks, often cramped and crowded. They ate in mess halls, the food simple but filling. Free time was precious, and often spent writing letters home, playing cards, or enjoying a rare movie night. Despite the hardships, there was a sense of purpose, a shared understanding that their sacrifices were vital to the defense of freedom. For those stationed overseas, particularly in the Pacific, the tension was palpable. They witnessed firsthand the growing aggression of Japan and the precarious situation in Asia. The attack on Pearl Harbor, though still months away, cast a long shadow, a stark reminder that war was imminent. December 7th, 1941. A date forever etched in American memory. The surprise attack on Pearl Harbor by the Empire of Japan shattered any lingering hope of peace, thrusting the United States headlong into World War II. The images of burning battleships and devastated airfields shocked the nation, galvanizing public opinion and solidifying national resolve. For the American soldiers, Pearl Harbor was a visceral reminder of the enemy's ruthlessness and the very real dangers they faced. The attack served as a rallying cry, fueling their determination to defeat fascism and defend their nation. The mood, however, was not one of blind vengeance, but of grim determination. The immediate aftermath of Pearl Harbor was a whirlwind of activity. Units were mobilized, deployments accelerated, and training intensified. The nation shifted to a war footing, with industries churning out weapons and supplies for the troops. The soldiers, now more than ever, understood the gravity of their task to win the war and ensure the survival of freedom. Section 5. Holding the line in the Pacific early battles and strategic retreats. The initial months after Pearl Harbor were a difficult time for American forces in the Pacific. Outnumbered and outgunned, they faced a relentless Japanese advance. The Philippines, Wake Island, and Guam fell in quick succession. The Battle of the Java Sea, a desperate attempt to stem the tide, ended in a crushing defeat for the Allies. Despite these setbacks, American soldiers fought with courage and tenacity. They held their ground at places like Bataan and Corregidor, enduring horrific conditions and facing overwhelming odds. Their sacrifices, though often overlooked in the larger narrative of the war, bought precious time for the Allies to regroup and prepare for the long fight ahead. The early defeats in the Pacific highlighted the strategic challenges faced by the U.S. The vast distances, logistical difficulties, and the ferocity of the Japanese war machine tested the mettle of these young soldiers. Yet, they persevered, their spirit unbroken, their determination fueled by a belief in the righteousness of their cause. Section 6. A rising threat in Europe, the North Atlantic, and the fight for supplies. While the Pacific theater raged, another battle was being waged in the Atlantic. German U-boats, prowling the shipping lanes, posed a significant threat to the vital flow of supplies from the United States to Great Britain. American warships and merchant vessels, tasked with escorting convoys, found themselves locked in a deadly game of cat and mouse with these underwater predators. The Battle of the Atlantic was a grueling campaign, fought in treacherous seas and often under the cover of darkness. For the sailors aboard these ships, the constant threat of torpedo attack created an atmosphere of tension and fear. Yet, they persevered, their courage and sacrifice ensuring that vital supplies reached Britain, bolstering its defenses and keeping it in the fight. The North Atlantic, though geographically distant from the battlefields of Europe and the Pacific, played a crucial role in the Allied war effort. The sacrifices of the sailors and merchant mariners who braved these dangerous waters helped turn the tide of the war, ensuring that the United States could project its industrial might and support its allies. Section 7. Voices from the Front. Personal stories of courage and sacrifice. The story of 1941 is best told through the voices of those who lived it. Men like Private First Class Charles Chuck Tatum, a farm boy from Iowa who found himself facing down Japanese tanks in the Philippines. "We were outmanned, outgunned, but not outfought," he later recalled, his voice filled with a mix of pride and sorrow. Then there was Lieutenant Commander Evans Carlson, a Marine officer who led a daring raid on Makin Island, demonstrating American resolve and striking a blow against the Japanese. His words, gung-ho, a Chinese phrase meaning work together, became a rallying cry for the Marines and encapsulated the spirit of teamwork and determination that defined the American fighting man. These personal stories, filled with acts of bravery, sacrifice, and resilience, remind us that behind the grand narratives of war are the individual stories of ordinary people who rose to meet extraordinary challenges. Their experiences, forever etched in the annals of history, serve as a testament to the indomitable spirit of the American soldier in 1941. Section 8. The Legacy of 1941. Shaping the American Soldier for Victory. The year 1941 was a crucible for the United States, a time of testing and transformation. The events of that year, from the mobilization of the nation to the shock of Pearl Harbor and the early battles in the Pacific and Atlantic, forged a generation of American soldiers. They learned the harsh realities of war, the importance of teamwork and sacrifice, and the unwavering belief in the cause for which they fought. The legacy of 1941 extended far beyond the battlefields. It shaped the American military, its tactics, and its doctrine. It highlighted the need for a strong industrial base, technological innovation, and the importance of global alliances. The lessons learned in 1941 would prove invaluable in the long fight ahead, paving the way for Allied victory in World War II. More importantly, 1941 shaped the character of a nation. It instilled a sense of shared purpose, a willingness to sacrifice for the common good, and an unwavering belief in the ideals of freedom and democracy. These values, forged in the fires of war, would continue to define the United States in the decades to come. Section 9. Conclusion. The enduring spirit of 1941. As we reflect on the year 1941, we remember the sacrifices of those who served, those who fought with courage and determination in the face of adversity. Their stories, a blend of triumph and tragedy, remind us of the human cost of war and the enduring legacy of those who answered their nation's call. The spirit of 1941, a spirit of resilience, unity, and unwavering belief in the face of global threat, continues to resonate today. It is a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit, when fortified by a just cause and fueled by the bonds of camaraderie, can overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges. The soldiers of 1941, often referred to as the greatest generation, left an indelible mark on history. Their sacrifices secured freedom for millions and shaped the world we live in today. As we face the challenges of our own time, their legacy serves as a beacon of hope, reminding us of the enduring power of courage, sacrifice, and the unwavering belief in the ideals that make us who we are.